Excited. Today, we are going to talk about newborns and specifically feeding and sleeping, and just sort of what you can expect over those first couple of months of life, which can often feel chaotic and a little bit overwhelming. So hopefully this helps to bring some structure and an idea of what to expect and what to come. Before we get started, I'll just introduce myself quickly. And Little Bean is sleep consulting. We offer support to families without judgment. And I founded this business on the basis that there is no right sleeping solution, only the sleeping solution that is right for your family. And so every family is different, every baby is different, and I'm here to help you navigate the best way to safe and restful sleep for you and your family. And so I'll pass over to Gail. Gail can tell you about New Mother, New Baby.
So I'm Gail Macklin, and I'm the owner of New Mother, New Baby, which is a lactation center in Northbrook, Illinois. And we've been there for 14 years. And basically there's probably about 5 or 6 of us lactation consultants. And then I also manage the lactation program at Lake Forest Hospital, where we have 10 lactation consultants that sort of rotate. And so we just help moms that are having problems with breastfeeding. And Katie and I thought it would be good to sort of team up because sleep and breastfeeding often go hand in hand. And they often give people a lot of problems at the very beginning. And everybody has a lot of questions about both of these topics. So we're just happy you're here today. And we're hopefully, going to give you some information that will be helpful.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some questions as well. So my background, I am the founder of Little Bean. I have 2 children of my own. Liam is 2, and he is where I started to learn about sleep. For me, postpartum was terribly scary. And it was coupled with a baby that never slept. Liam never slept for more than 90 minutes at a time, and I knew nothing. And as I started to learn about sleep, I started to kind of fall in love with the idea of being able to support other families and to support other mothers who maybe were experiencing what I was experiencing, which was a baby with gastro issues that I could not settle, that I could not sleep. And so I learned some basics and some foundations, and that is the genesis of where this business has come from. And then, Gail?
A little bit about me. So I'm a registered nurse. I'm a board certified lactation consultant. And like I said, I've owned New Mother, New Baby for the past 14 years. I have 3 children, boy, girl, boy, and who now have children of their own. So I'm also a grandmother of 3 boys, 2.5, 2.5, and 10.5 months. And then 1 is on the way. So, and it's really fun being a grandma too. I have to say that.
Yeah, like grandmas get to have all the fun.
Yeah. And give them back.
And give them back. So today we're going to cover, the first few days, what that can look like. I'll talk a little bit about safe sleep and swaddling. We'll look at the first few weeks in that transition. We'll talk about the importance of wake windows, nap types and schedules. I'll talk a little bit about night waking, so you've got an idea of what to expect, and then we can talk about the first few months and scheduling. So I'll just jump right in.
And one thing I just wanted to type in and say is that the presentation will probably be about 20 minutes or so. And then there'll be questions and answers, questions at the end. So you guys can ask the questions that you probably came here with today.
Yep.
Okay.
So the first few days, often the first night home is one of the hardest, particularly when it comes to sleep. If you have had a natural delivery or a C-section and you've stayed in the hospital for a couple of days, you might have something to expect or some form of expectation because of how nights have been. And if you have come home on the same day, you're often, those first couple of nights home are without support. And it's when we see day-night confusion really come to light. So day-night confusion is when your baby is born thinking that nights are for activities and you see feeding all night long, and days are for sleeping. And so you see huge long stretches of sleep during the day and then no sleep at all during the night. This is because our babies are born with an imbalanced and very immature circadian rhythm. During their time in the womb, basically, as you've been walking around, you're rocking your baby to sleep constantly. So your baby is used to having this rocking motion that puts them to sleep during the day. And then when you're still at night, that's when they're up and moving around. And so that's why you get those 4 a.m. rib kicks. So when your baby is born, they then still are experiencing this expectation that they should be awake during the day and are awake during the night and asleep during the day. So this lasts for weeks, sometimes up to months, but there is a few things that you can do to help your little one adjust. First and foremost, we want to make sure that baby is exposed to lots of light during the day. First thing in the morning, get lots of natural sunlight, start to provide those cues that light time is for activity, daytime is for activity. And then in the evenings, when the sun goes down, we want to minimize light exposure, make sure that we're sending the cue that nighttime is for sleeping. Other things that we can do that are helpful in reversing day-night confusion is cat naps at 2 hours per day. This allows for enough feedings during the day. So we want to make sure that baby is feeding frequently and getting nice full feedings during the day. If baby snacks all day, they're going to snack all night. So making sure that we're setting up for success. But I do want to point out that babies feed well into the first few months of life. The stomachs are microscopic. They're tiny. They simply cannot take on enough milk to sustain more than a few hours at a time. So we're not aiming to reduce night wakings at this point. We're just aiming to reduce unnecessary night wakings. I wanted to touch on safe sleep because it is such an important part of what I do. There was an initial campaign, Back to Sleep, and Safe to Sleep is the follow-on from that. It was launched by the NIH in combination or in partnership with the American Academy of Pediatrics, and it was aiming to reduce SIDS. And so SIDS and SUDI, SIDS is sudden infant death syndrome, and SUDI is the sudden unexplained death of an infant. Both are also known as cot death, and this is it's often related to sleeping. And so there's a few different things that we can do to help mitigate the risk of SIDS. We always want to make sure that baby is put to sleep on their back in a firm, flat, and level surface that is covered only with a fitted sheet. We want to feed our babies breast milk. We want to room share in a space that is separate from your own. So cribs, side sleepers, and bassinets. We want to make sure there are no toys, objects, or loose blankets or any other items that are in your baby's sleep space. Once our baby's feeding well and we know that they have a strong latch, we want to start offering a pacifier at sleep times. There is some research that indicates that a pacifier is useful in limiting SIDS. We want to make sure that we are drug, smoke, and alcohol free during pregnancy, and that we have an environment that remains drug, smoke, and alcohol free through for all of our carers through the first few months of life. We want to make sure that there's never any possibility that anything inside the crib can cover baby's head or face. So that includes the hats that they send you home from the hospital in. We basically want to never have any option to obstruct baby's airway. It's important to let baby, to keep baby from overheating. And also equally, it's quite conducive to sleep in a cool environment. Stop swaddling when babies start to roll. We want to ensure our babies get lots of tummy time so that their neck strength is good. And this helps to allow them the strength to move away should they have any obstructive breathing. And then we avoid any products that promote that they prevent SIDS, because it's highly unlikely that's true. So this is a good example of what a safe sleep environment looks like. You can see that baby is on their own, on their back with nothing else in the crib with them. Sleepwear is often one of the questions I get asked the most. How do I prevent my baby from becoming too hot? How do I know if my baby is too cold? So to put our babies down, the best rule of thumb that I work with is what you're wearing plus one breathable layer. So if you're just in a nightshirt, it's then a onesie and a sleep sack or a swaddle. And of course, we want to avoid any hats, loose clothing, anything that could potentially cover baby's face, and no blankets in their crib. Equally, if you are co-sleeping, we want to make sure we're providing an environment that does not have blankets or any loose items that could cover baby's face. To swaddle or not to swaddle is a great question. And it's a topic that I love to talk about because often people will say to me that their baby hates to be swaddled. And actually, it's normally your baby hates the act of being swaddled. Swaddling is extremely beneficial for babies that have a stronger temperament or that are less likely to fall asleep and stay asleep. Swaddling offers an environment that is similar to the womb in that it's nice and tight and snug. And it also stifles the Moro reflex. So your Moro reflex is when your baby, you'll see them as they're falling asleep, their arms and fingers and hands go out and they shuck themselves awake. And so the Moro reflex is around for about 8 weeks. And that first 8 weeks of life is really helpful to have your baby in a swaddle. There are so many different types of swaddles that are available on the market. And I remember, honestly, I remember being in the hospital and having our nurse try and teach me how to use a blanket swaddle. And I tried and I tried and I tried, and my son broke out of it all the time. So I love the Velcro swaddles. I also love the arms up swaddles. Basically, you want something that's just going to contain your limbs from startling your baby awake. The swaddles also have an added benefit that they keep your baby warm in the night because we want to have a nursery that is around 69 to 70 degrees for comfortable sleeping. Those first few weeks at home, you'll find that things begin to kind of settle down a little bit. You will find patterns emerging. It may seem like your baby is stretching or sleeping huge long stretches. A lot of parents think, oh my gosh, my baby's a great sleeper. I don't know what the books are all about. I don't know what people complain about. My baby sleeps all the time. And it's this beautiful honeymoon period before your baby's really awake and alert. So we see baby sleep in long, unbroken stretches around the clock. They wake to feed and often go straight back to sleep afterwards. They feed super frequently through the day and also through the night. Cluster feeding emerges and becomes common in the afternoon. And bedtime for your newborn is around 8:30 to 10 p.m. So you have a later start to the day typically, and then a later end to the day. Bedtime will move forward eventually, but naturally we see babies have that first long stretch of night will begin to, that first long stretch of sleep at night will begin to emerge around 8:30 to 9:30 and go 2 or 3 hours, and then 3 or 4 hours, and then 5 or 6 hours. And as it begins to stretch and become longer, then we can begin to move bedtimes forward. At this point, it's really important that we prevent our babies from becoming overtired. So overtired babies don't fall asleep or stay asleep. And that's because, well, it's not that they don't fall asleep, they have a harder time falling asleep. That's because when a baby becomes overtired, the body floods with cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone that prevents them from staying asleep. And so when your baby becomes overtired, you might see lots of crying, difficult time falling asleep, and then awake after that sort of 30 minutes. And they're still obviously disgruntled. They're still obviously upset. And they haven't had the rest that they need. The biggest takeaway that I can give you as a parent of a newborn is that your baby cannot stay awake as long as you think. Newborn awake times are often only, 60 minutes. Those first few weeks are only 60 minutes. And so you might find that wake times consist of waking, feeding, getting a nice full feeding, burping, changing. And by that point, baby actually has to go back to sleep again. Some babies initially will do this really willingly. Other babies will have a harder time with it. It just really comes down to the temperament of your baby. So if you're having a harder time getting your baby to go to sleep, it's not your fault. You're not doing anything. Just stay consistent and it will come together. Around 3 to 4 months, and we'll talk about that sort of stretch of time in a second, but around 3 to 4 months, that starts to extend and nap routines become more predictable. But those first couple of months, nap times can range anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. And as a new parent, this can be pretty overwhelming. So when you're trying to decide how and when to put your baby down, the best thing you can do is watch for sleepy cues. If your baby is already like fussing and crying, and, you know, really seeming uncontrollably upset, often you've missed that window. So you want to get it early. You're looking for red rings around their eyes. Maybe they're yawning. They might be rubbing their face. They might be pulling their ear. You're looking for indications that, you know, it's time for them to go to bed. Their eyes may glaze over. They may kind of stare longingly off into the distance. All of these are cues that it's time to go to sleep. And baby sleep cues are super complicated because they're never the same for any baby. And then often they're different from sleep session to sleep session. So you kind of have to constantly be watching. As a new parent, it can feel like you are constantly putting your baby back down to bed. And I know that as a new mother, it can then feel like you can't go out, like you have to turn around and rush home constantly. If you have a baby that's on more than 3 naps, you know, you can constantly feel like you're trying to put your baby to sleep. And this is where using different nap types still counts as getting your baby the sleep that they need. So whether these are contact naps or on the go naps, you know, getting out, getting yourself fresh air, doing activities, trying to sort of get out and about in the world is so restorative for you as a parent. And it's also great for your baby and indicating that daytime is for activity. So I'd encourage you to get out, you know, get your baby out in the stroller, get your baby out in the carrier. Often if your baby won't settle, these are also great tools in helping them relax. Night wakings, it is completely typical, completely normal and natural for your baby to wake to feed through the night until they are 6 months old and even beyond that. Depending on their rate of weight gain, how much milk they're taking on, how many times they're feeding during the day, how much they're able to take during those feeding sessions, you might find that your child wakes through the night, you know, for quite a while. What we want to do around this time is start to look at different ways to minimize unnecessary night wakings. And so night wakings there are 3 kinds. They are nutritive, habitual, and due to scheduling. And so nutritive is feeding. We don't want to do anything to reduce night wakings until we're sure that our pediatrician has given us the sign off to start reducing nutritive night feedings. But sometimes if your baby is getting too much or too little day sleep, they'll wake through the night because of scheduling. So, you know, baby's up for 2 hours in the night partying. And this is often related to scheduling, or baby is waking up at 5:30 to start their day. This is also probably a result that they're overtired. So we can eliminate some of those night wakings by making sure we're getting the right amount of day sleep and we're not putting a baby to bed overtired, because this will cause them to wake early. Environment becomes really, really important around the 7 to 8 week mark. So at that point, your baby is becoming more aware of what is going on around them. They're aware that it's light, they're looking for cues and patterns constantly. And so really using your environment to set your baby up for success to sleep. So week 7 through 12, this is a great part, or really fun part of infancy, because your baby can start to recognize sequences. So they become more alert and they're more awake. They're more interactive. They, you know, they're awake for slightly longer stretches, not long, but slightly longer stretches. Maybe you're starting to get a few smiles here and there. So it's a really, really exciting time as a new mother, because you start to sort of have some more interaction with your child. At this stage, sequencing and patterns become incredible cues for your babies when it comes to sleep. So it's a great time to start a bedtime routine. Bedtime routines are often, you know, turn the lights down, have a bath, read some stories, have some milk, you know, nurse, and then put your baby back down to bed. If you do this consistently, your baby will start to recognize at this age that this is time to sleep. And you can start to use truncated versions of these for nap time as well. So at that 6-8 week mark, it becomes, you know, a really good time to start focusing in on your foundations of sleep. And this is when your day starts to become a little bit more predictable. I always say to the new moms that I'm working with, it sort of 6-7 weeks, that's when you can start to bring some patterning in, which is often super beneficial for new mothers who like to have a bit of an idea of what to expect. around the 7 to 12 through 12 weeks, we can start to bring some structure to our day. I love to start the day at the same time every day. When you start your day and your day with predictable bedtimes, then what you'll see is that the internal schedule of your day starts to come together. Your baby will have natural sleep times based on the ability or their ability to stay awake. So maybe they can stay awake for 60 minutes. Then if you are waking them at 7 every day, then predictably their first nap is at 8 every day. And that nap may be 30 minutes, that nap may be 2 hours, but it'll start to come together in a more consistent fashion. And if you're logging and tracking the amount that they're sleeping, then you can start to look at what a predictable framework will be for the day. At this point, I do just want to say that you cannot actually implement a schedule for a baby that is under 4 months of age. And even 4 or 5 months is still incredibly young. Babies are totally unpredictable in their ability to consolidate naps. And sometimes it is just a matter of hanging on and getting through it. And while sleep cannot be, by the clock predictable, there are things that you can do to give your baby the best opportunity to go to sleep. So that's kind of what we talk about when we're talking about newborn foundations for sleeping, is giving your baby the best shot to sleep longer stretches. I know that for new parents, when you're sort of in the midst of waking up all through the night, it can feel like this is going to be the rest of your life. And it's not. It will pass. And particularly for those first couple of months, your baby is so new, they need so much attention, they need so much care. So you can't really begin to structure or schedule, but you can put a framework in. And so if you start your day at the same time every day and you work to end your day at the same time every day, you can start to see a natural structure emerge through the day for your child. Drowsy but awake is something that you are going to see in every sleep resource. Everything is going to tell you that you should be putting your child down drowsy but awake. And very few things are going to tell you what drowsy but awake looks like. So putting your child down drowsy to awake, I just want to say is it's a great recommendation. It doesn't always work in practice. If you're not hitting wake windows properly, if you if your child's had more stimulation than normal, maybe they didn't sleep as well as they did last night. Maybe they're awake and alert to certain stimulus for the first time. Maybe they're gassy. Maybe it's too hot, too cold, and they're nonverbal, so they can't tell you. There are a million reasons why putting your child down drowsy but awake will not work. But by using drowsy but awake, we can give our child, again, the best shot. So we want to practice but not enforce independent sleep. So before you are 4 months old, there really is no point. It's very, very difficult for your child to understand how to do that. Not only that, at 4 months, there is a sleep regression that will upend it anyway. So we can pick one nap a day where we really want to practice that skill of putting your child down and see what they'll do. And typically you'll see as you start to go through this, that there is one sleep a day or one time of day where your child is easier to put to sleep, where your baby's easier to put to sleep. For a lot of babies, that's first thing in the morning. They've had a good full feeding, they're still kind of drowsy from the night, but they've woken up. So in that instance, you can really use that particular sleep as an opportunity to practice drowsy but awake. And, you can try for 15 minutes, just placing your baby down on their back. Maybe you keep your hand on their chest and offer them support while giving them the space to try. And at 15 minutes, you can go, you know what, you're tired. I know you're tired. I'm going to help you go to sleep now. And you cannot spoil a newborn. They do not have the skills or the ability to learn the skills to put themselves to sleep independently at that age. And so anything before 4 months, you really want to ensure that your child is getting sleep. You're not really focusing on how they're getting sleep. You're just focusing on the fact that they are getting sleep because they need the rest and you need the rest. Later on, 4 or 5 months, you can start looking at ways to teach and encourage independent sleep. But really those first few months with a newborn, you are rocking to sleep, you are feeding to sleep, and there's nothing wrong with that. It is absolutely the best way to get through those first couple of months together. Okay, that's me. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Katie. It's Samantha. I'll start.
Hi.
us- I'm well, thanks. So I have baby Marty, who Gail has met, and we are at about 14 weeks. So
Okay.
I have a couple of questions for you. So first about the swaddling. So he does love to be swaddled. He is on the verge of rolling over. So we have been swaddling him with his arms out of the ollie. Can we keep using an ollie, or do we have to transition to sleep sack?
You can keep, if you've got arms out of the ollie, that's totally fine.
So even if he rolls, even if his feet are kind of like bundled at the bottom, he should be able to roll back.
Feet bundled is totally fine. What you want is arms. So how is the ollie very tight on the legs?
It is, because it's got that Velcro and the bottom is almost like a hair tie.
Let me just I'm going to look at it really quickly.
I think it might be too restrictive. That's the one that, I mean, it's a very tight, it's a really tight Velcro.
It is.
It is.
Oh, if it's no, I'm just looking at it now. I would switch to a sleep sack.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
would. Yeah, just because there's no harm to switching him to a sleep sack. And if he's already sleeping well with his arms out, there's no reason he wouldn't transition to a sleep sack super easily.
Got it. Okay, good. We've got those too. So
Yeah, no, it's good. I know like the transitions themselves can sometimes feel super intimidating because especially if you are in a pattern that's working, you're so reluctant to make any changes because what if it all goes pear-shaped? Transitions from swaddles to sleep sacks, often it's the arms that are the problem. It's not the actual switching of the sack afterwards. And even if it is, just hold tight for, a day and he'll get used to it in 1 or 2 days.
and then you also mentioned trying to start your day at the same time. So would the preferred method or a good strategy be to wake, even if they are asleep, wake them up every time at the same time every morning?
Yeah. And so never wake a sleeping baby is a kind of phrase that my mom uses all the time. And whenever I tell her I'm going to go wake the baby, she's like, what are you doing? Don't do that. But actually by starting the day at the same time every day, you allow for a predictable habit, for a predictable schedule. And so babies thrive on routine, they thrive on predictability. And also then you're keeping your day in check so that bedtime doesn't get thrown out. And so by keeping bedtime and starting your day at the same time, then you're actually preventing overtired towards the end of the day.
Okay, I have one more for you. So we had the other night a really good night. Marty slept the whole night straight, no night waking. But then the last couple nights we've been up every 2 hours eating. So any thoughts? He definitely is gaining weight. He's doing well. He's eating a lot during the day. But just looking for strategy as a first-time parent.
So it could be that he's just in a growth spurt. Growth spurts are so frequent in those first few months of life. So it's possible it's a growth spurt. As long as you're sure he's getting feeds through the day, you can wait a couple of minutes before you leap out of bed to feed him. And so if he wakes in the night, and he fed, say, 90 minutes before, you can wait kind of 5-10 minutes if he's not screaming and just see what he does. Maybe he'll resettle. Hungry babies don't resettle. So if he's hungry, he's not going to just put himself back to sleep. You don't have to worry about starving him. He's not going to go to sleep in the night if he's hungry. So you can wait a few minutes. I generally say 5-10. And if at that point he's still up, then get up and feed him and you can put him back down. I know like it's hard without looking at what his actual schedule is. At 14 weeks, you're looking at sort of 4 or 5 naps. Altogether, it should be 3.5 to 4.5 hours of day sleep. His bedtime should be forward towards 7-ish by now. Maybe it's still closer to 8. It depends on whether you're waking him or what time you're waking him, what time he's naturally waking in the morning. But at 14 weeks, scheduling does play a really big part in night wakings as well. So if he's getting too much sleep during the day, that might be causing him to wake more at night to feed. And as you get closer and closer to that 4-month mark, his sleep in the day it goes from sort of five naps down to 4 naps down to 3 naps really quickly in that sort of 4 or 5 week mark. So you can have a look at your scheduling. I'm happy to send you through some resources if you want to shoot me a message. You can have a look at your scheduling and see whether he's getting too much or too little. And then I would encourage you just to wait a couple of minutes before getting out of bed to feed him, if you are sure that he has been fed recently enough. I would never recommend at that age that you I would never recommend at that age that you withhold feeding, or not withhold feeding, but hold back on feeding a new baby, because they're still kind of unpredictable in their night feeding schedules. But certainly having a look at his day schedule might be helpful.
Perfect. Thank you. We're feeding him right now. So then hopefully he'll go down, even though we're a little late for bedtime.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Hi, I'm Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay.
So I'm 33 weeks pregnant with our first, my husband's here listening too. And I was really glad that this class exists, because the thing that I'm most nervous about with parenting is sleep and going back to work, after maternity leave. And I'm fortunate that, our parents can help us. His mom lives close by, so she can watch him. And my parents are like kind of helping us out financially for the few months that I'm not working. But my plan was, I just started telling clients, that I'm going to be on maternity leave for about 4 months. I don't want to set anything in stone, because if it's longer than that, I don't want them to be disappointed. But what I'm gathering is 4 months is probably not the best time to then restart a work schedule, because I can make my own schedule, but it has to like stay kind of what I set it. So if I'm like, okay, I'll see clients, I'm only going to go back part-time. So if I say, okay, I'm going to see clients from 12 to 4, starting when he's 4 months old, I'm gathering that maybe that's too soon. And like, if I have the flexibility to push it back to 5 months, that might be better, because of the regression and the changes in nap times, and getting some type of, like you said, you can't exactly schedule a baby, but like have more of a handle on the routine. So I just want to know what you think about that.
What would be your childcare when you go back to work? Sorry if you said that. I don't.
My mother-in-law will be babysitting him. Yeah.
Okay. So at 4 months, there's a series of developmental changes for sure. And the 4-month sleep regression is a doozy.
I've heard. Yeah.
I think part of the reason why the 4-month sleep regression is so confronting is because a lot of parents go into it not knowing what to expect, and then not knowing how to deal with what's come of it. And so you might have a baby that sleeps all the time that suddenly does not know how to sleep anymore. And as a first-time parent, you're going, oh my God, what do I do? Like, what do I do? How do I deal with this? And then you're sleep deprived and trying to figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I know it sounds scary, but the fact that you're already trying to mitigate it and looking at ways around it, you're actually positioning yourself like very, very well. So there are a series of developmental changes around that time, and it depends on how you feel about tackling it, really. A lot of people will want to take on everything at the same time. It's one period of change. You deal with it in one go. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off. It's super painful for a week, and then everything settles back down. For other families, they prefer to move in a more gradual manner. And so then, yes, getting through a sleep regression and then trying to wait until they implement a nap schedule and get a daytime together, that's right for them. So it's just what's right for you. I would say if you have the support of having a parent in your home that can navigate it with you, you're in a phenomenal position to go back to work whenever you want. If that's 4 months, and at 4 months that feels like what you want to do and that's what's right for you, I would encourage you to do it. It's really, there's nothing that will come at you that's not unnavigatable, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
you as a parent are fully capable in dealing with it. It's just that it's 2 weeks, and it's only 2 weeks of sometimes chaos.
Okay. Okay.
You are welcome to message me during that chaotic time and be like, what do I do? I will help you. We will get there. And the reality is you can put all of these plans in place and then have a baby that doesn't go through a 4-month regression, and all of your angst, all of your stress is for naught. And then you can be me and assume it's all going to get better at 4 months and have it just not. And so it really depends on your baby. And the best thing you can do is just be prepared for it. Know it's coming. Don't freak out about it. Know it passes. Know that you have support around you. You've got family around you. Sometimes it's a matter of passing off the baby and being like, I'm going to go take a nap. And somebody else is just going to have to deal with this for me. And particularly if you do choose to go back to work, then, do that. Hand the baby off. Hand the baby off. There's nothing wrong with handing the baby off so you can go and get some sleep.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate
Does
it.
that help you?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
It's quite difficult without knowing your baby's temperament beforehand, because often very soft temperamented babies, you can work really hard, you can implement foundations, you can make sure they have, a great sleep routine in place by that point. They've got a solid bedtime, you guys have a structure to your day, and you can glide right through it. With a spicy temperamented baby, it can be pear-shaped from week 2, and there's nothing you can do about it till week 15. So it's kind of a wait and see scenario, but I know moms that have gone back to work at 10 weeks and made it through, and they've survived. So it's financially what you need to do as a consultant who makes her own hours.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anybody else?
I have a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. Sorry. I'm also trying to put my baby to sleep.
It's right in the money zone, isn't it?
Oh my God, yeah, it's great. My name's Hila. Jada is 4.5 months. I have 2 other kids, so my life is a mess. And of course her older sisters come and wake her up in the morning. They'll give her passy, which is great for me, but sometimes they won't wake me up. So I don't know how long she's been up for or not. Anyway, my question is about, I've kind of been okay with night sleeping. She's actually been okay. I'm afraid to say that though, but in terms of daytime, how many naps should she be getting? I know that I can tell you right now, I'm not sure if I'll be able to meet them all, but I just want to know what I'm striving for.
So I will send out after this a daytime wake windows guide, which has the number of naps. At 4.5 months, it is 4 to 5. Let me just,
Okay.
I'm going to pull up so that I have it in front of me and I can share it with you. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Can you see in here? Okay, so at 3 to 4 months, you're looking at 3 to 4 naps.
Okay.
And then there's a transition around 4. So she might be in 3, she might still be in 4. It really depends on your baby and her ability to stretch those wake windows. At 5, you're well and truly in 3 nap zone for most babies. Sometimes if there's daycare involved, or there's a family reason for waking really early and having a longer day, you'll still have a baby that's on 4. But around the 4-month mark, you should be looking at 3 naps.
Okay. Okay.
Wake windows are on the longer end of 2 hours, 90 minutes to 2 hours, with roughly 2 to 2:25 before bed.
Okay.
And then your total number of nap time, like total length of naps all combined, is 3 to 4 hours.
Okay. Okay.
And
We're not doing so good. But I guess my next question would be, I mean, we do nap during the day, and I think her earlier naps are much better. Especially since like a few weeks ago where I've really tried, like I'm really trying. I guess my question is, if she's not getting enough sleep, developmentally, will she be okay?
she'll be totally fine. She might be angry.
Yeah.
Often overtired babies, if they're like really, really chronically overtired, and I'm talking like screaming all the time, awake all night, never ever capable of sleeping for more than an hour and a half at a time, you might see developmental delays in a baby that's this young. But if you're getting good night sleep for the most part, you're getting some chunky naps, your biggest repercussion that you're going to deal with is that you are going to see her far earlier in the morning than you choose, as she gets a little bit older. So over the next like month or so, like if her naps are broken consistently, what you might see is unnecessary night wakings, good indicators of scheduling issues, or she might wake 45 minutes after you put her down to bed. We call that a false start. It's overtired by the time you put her to sleep. You might see her trying to start her day at say 5:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, or have like 2 hours of awake time in the night where you're sort of at your wit's end going, why aren't you sleeping? Those are the side effects from having, like, again, really broken nap days. I'm talking about like having a 4-month-old having 2 40-minute naps in the entire length of their day.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely get the early wake up, especially with the other girls. But yeah, I mean, we're trying. I just wanted to know like really because sometimes it feels like I spend like 2 hours putting her down for a nap.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, at that point, I'm just lost. Like, I don't know what to do.
If it's taking you 2 hours to put her down for a nap, chances are she's been awake for too long.
Okay.
It shouldn't take you 2 hours to put her down unless she's got like if she's got gastro discomfort. So if she's kind of arching or stretching, she's got big painful burps or hiccups, beating her legs, those are all big indicators of a baby that has gas discomfort. But if you're like, this baby is fed and happy and warm and still won't sleep, it's a good chance that they're actually overtired and it's preventing her from being able to go to sleep. And so I would encourage you to look at your wake windows. At 4.5 months old, that is 90 minutes to 2 hours. Sometimes, because you're in that window, the transition between 4 months and 5 months, sometimes it's maybe as much as 2.5 hours. And if she's awake for the shorter period of time that she's awake for, the easier it'll be for her to fall asleep. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So scheduling and overtired babies, it's a really interesting prophecy, because if a baby is overtired, they're going to have a really hard time falling asleep, and then they're going to have a really hard time staying asleep. And if they have a hard time staying asleep and they're not getting the rest that they need, they continue to be overtired. It becomes a cycle. And so actually by really following our wake windows and making sure that we're getting baby down nice and early, and I'm not saying put her down at 60 minutes, she's too old for that, but get her down in the window. And you'll find that it'll be a lot easier to get her to go to sleep.
Yeah, I think my initial issue, and I realize that now, is that I was kind of picking her up when she was maybe in between like sleep stages. And now I found that if I just, throw the passy in her mouth, she'll go back to sleep. And I must have been like interrupting that. Of course, like in hindsight, I realized that very much, but yeah, that was a big mistake on my part.
You see that with a lot of new parents, because your sleep cycle, babies are in light sleep, and then they're down in a very deep sleep, and then they come back up to an active sleep cycle, which is the transition into the next round of deep sleep. And so a lot of the time when we see babies start to move, maybe they open their eyes, they call out a little bit, but the whole thing lasts a couple of minutes and then they go back into a deep sleep. So as parents of a newborn or a small baby, you're like genetically wired that baby made noise, I need to run to it. And everything on the internet tells you that if you don't run to it, you are a terrible person. But actually your baby is still asleep. They're just transitioning between the cycles. And around 3 to 4 months, that cycle is, this is part of that 4-month regression, is that sleep cycle becomes roughly 30 minutes. And it is by the clock to the minute, whatever the natural time for your child is. So for my children, for example, my son is 32 minutes and my daughter is 36 minutes. And like to the second, you can see them move as they transition between those cycles. So this is part of what I mean around feeding through the night as well, is give your child a couple of minutes, give your baby a couple of minutes to see if they're just between cycles and if they can settle themselves back down into a deeper sleep. And often we see that for naps, we see them connect naps together. For night sleep, we see them start to string those night sleeps together and get bigger, longer, lovely stretches of sleep in the night.
Thank you.
No problem. Can I help anybody else?
So Caitlin, can you explain, this is Debbie, sorry, can you explain kind of, obviously you've done this presentation, but what do you, like if someone calls you, what is your typical, like what do you do? What services do you offer?
So I'm a sleep consultant. I am certified through TCCA. I work with families to support them in finding a structure that works. And so I offer a variety of packages that have different levels of support, where basically I become an on-call sleep helper. So the most basic of which is a sleep guide. It offers a discovery call where we would look at individual sleeping patterns. Your family, look at what your baby's age and sleep needs are, and then I would go away and give you basically a sleep Bible that has schedules. It's got information about upcoming regressions and transitions, and then the sleep guide package has a very limited support option that goes with it. And then that varies all the way up to a full guided support package, which is I give you a plan and I would work with that family to then implement that plan over a series of weeks. Those support packages range all the way up to like a maintenance retainer, which goes on over the first few months of life as your baby goes through transitions. I also work with moms groups. So I do this presentation in a paid format to a group of moms. And I offer a newborn foundations package, which is, before birth and then after birth, and then troubleshooting any issues that come up. So my role as a sleep consultant is to basically support new families based on their personal situation and the temperament of their child, and help them navigate their way forward through what is what can be, not to scare you, Lindsay, what can be a somewhat chaotic time in their life.
Right. And is there an age at which, like if someone called you and they have a 1-year-old, like what is your...
Oh, I work with children up to 3 years normally. I'm certified to do older than that. But really I find the most difference that I can make is with younger babies. So through those toddler years. And then all the way, I'm certified up till 6 years, but I prefer to work with the babies because I think that's where I can make the biggest difference with families.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I really appreciate you all for being here. This has been fun.
Yes.
I like to talk about baby sleep for hours.
I have a question for you. I'll ask for my daughter, who had the world's worst 2 sleepers. I will say that 2 little boys that were terrible sleepers. But different. I mean, they had like different, issues. We thought the first one, Oscar, was bad until Jonah came along. Oscar finally started to sleep. And then Jonah came along and he had he spit up a lot, and it seemed like he was having a lot of GI discomfort. And the problem with Jonah is he wouldn't let you sit down. And you know how you sort of said, like, if they're beating their legs, like he would be kind of like always pushing, and he just seemed like he was in a lot of discomfort. So it was hard to like even do any kind of like, if you let him, if she wasn't walking around and pacing for hours, the minute you put him down, he would,
Yeah.
he would just cry and cry and cry. But anyway, he finally at 10 and a half months is doing this week. He's finally doing better, but he is waking up early. So the day starts at 5:30 for them, like usually, around 5:30. So what is your recommendation to move that? So maybe he'll start sleeping like till 6:30.
Sleep schedules, 100% sleep schedules. So she should have a look at the amount of sleep that he's having during the day, and then have a look at his bedtime. More often than not, it's overtired. Very, very, very rarely I see a baby that is getting too much day sleep who's then waking in the morning just because they've kind of hit their sleep capacity.
Mhm.
But this is like very rare. For most babies, it's overtired. And so sometimes by tweaking just that first nap of the day, bringing that first nap of the day forward 10 minutes, you can see it tailor through the end of the night. Nap times or wake windows should crescendo. So they should be shorter in the morning and then longest before bed at night.
Mhm.
And so he's 10 and a half months. He's on 2 naps or 1.
Yeah, he's on 2 naps. And so I babysit them on Wednesday. So I kind of know, like, he's usually, for me, he sleeps about an hour and a half to 2 hours, his first nap. And his second nap is usually about an hour and a half. So he's getting kind of like 3.5 to 4 hours of day sleep.
And what time? So he's waking up at 5:30. What time is his nap?
His nap is usually somewhere around 8:30, 8:45.
And then that one's 90 minutes to 2 hours. And then his next nap is usually when?
Like 1:30, maybe 1:32, somewhere in that range.
Okay. So I think he's probably stuck in a bit of an overtired cycle, because typically at that age we have what we call a 2-3-4 schedule.
Yeah.
2 hours before nap 1, 3 hours before nap 2, and then 4 hours before bedtime. If you're
Okay.
starting at 5:30 in the morning, though, it's really hard to do 2 naps. And so you're stretching him to 3 hours. And because you're stretching him to 3 hours, he's already overtired by the time
Okay.
1. She's sleep trained.
She did. I mean, finally she did. I mean, just because she didn't sleep for 10 months. I mean, it was more than like 4 hours, and that was broken. So I don't know how she did it, but it was terrible.
So what she should do is, if she continues to use her timers in the morning and keep him in a dark space until 7 a.m., his day does not start until 7 a.m. And that just needs to be like a hard and fast rule, unless he's wailing. If he's wailing and he's upset, then you don't respond to a baby that's wailing and upset. But any crib time, any dark time is actually still restorative for a baby. So if your baby wakes early from a nap, if your baby is waking super early in the morning, if you can leave them in a dark space, it's still more restful for them than being out and is, in stimulus with loud noise and loud lights. So if she can use her timers and keep him in his bed, so keep him in there until he starts to cry. If he starts to cry, start running timers, and then don't start his day until 7. And then you can do, 2, probably at his age, probably 2.25, 2.5 before that first nap. Then you're shifting the whole day down. You can shorten the time between the 2 naps a little bit. So then you're more in structured 2, 3, 4, and then that will help him fill his nights. But a 5:30 a.m. waking is a schedule issue. His schedule issue is that he's kind of caught in the tumble dryer of 5:30 in the morning.
Right. Okay. No, that's helpful. I mean, obviously he's just finally getting, he's finally sleeping kind of through the night. I mean, sometimes he'll still wake up once, but he's going back to bed, where before it was like party for 2 hours, it was,
Yeah.
hard. And we took him, I talked to you a little bit about it. Like, we took him to the chiropractor, we took him to the, pediatric GI, we took him, she had a meeting with a dietitian. It was sort of, very interesting to see, but nobody really, I mean, he's a big boy. He's like a really good eater. He's, kind of like a chunky little monkey. He's very, I mean, he's starting to walk at 10 months old. So he's very, very like mobile, and he climbs up and down the stairs, he goes up and down the Pickler Triangle. I mean, he's like a very mobile kid. So
It's funny because one of the things that I learned pretty early on is also GI symptoms are very similar to a baby that's overtired. And so a baby that's kind of kicking won't be put down. It could be gas and discomfort, and it could just be the fact that they're overtired. And if Jonah was up all through the night and not getting those long stretches of really restorative night sleep, it's probable that possible, depending, I haven't met him, but it's possible that it's also that he was just overtired.
yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you're probably right about that, because
And stress because he's, always upset. And so his body is always coursing with cortisol, and that makes him really stressed out, and it makes him unable to settle himself, and also makes it very difficult for other people to settle him down as well.
right. Yeah. So,
But
okay,
he's
that's
I think
helpful.
he's also, if you're just starting the sleep training with him, he's still catching up. So just by nature of, it being early on in the sleep and getting him to sleep through the night, he's still catching up on so much lost sleep.
Right.
That if the 5:30 wakings, I would shorten his wake windows. I would get him to bed a little bit earlier where you can, and just make sure that he's getting a lot of restorative sleep while he starts to catch up on all the sleep that he was missing.
Okay, well, thank you. That's helpful.
No problem at all. Anybody else? Amazing. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. That was a great presentation.
No problem. We can email it around as well.
Yeah, I was
we
gonna
record-
I
yeah.
took a
Go
couple
ahead.
screenshots and was like, do I need to take these screenshots if they're gonna send it out after? We loved some of your slides. I want to hang on to. So if you do send it out, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, for sure. I will.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
and we recorded this, and I'm actually redoing my website right now. It'll probably be done in June, but we just started the redesign, and we're gonna try to keep these all on our website. And Caitlin, maybe you'll put them on your website
Yeah, for
too.
sure. I'll put them up on mine.
And that way you can go back and watch and access and find, different things. And then we're hoping to do this monthly with different topics. And so we'll, kind of have a short presentation and then Q&A about, anything that you guys have questions about. So I think that will be helpful. Sleep is it's really a hard topic, and I think it's gotten even more difficult because there's so much on the internet that it's sort of like, you don't know really, what to do. And like you said, Katie, every baby is different and every parent is different. It's sort of like, it's not a cookie cutter kind of thing.
And people on the internet have big, big, big feelings about what's right. And it's not always what's right for you. And so it's super easy when you are sleep deprived and looking for a solution to go down terrible rabbit holes where people have really strong feelings. They're making claims that they have no basis for. You can start to feel like you only have one option, whether that option is sleep training or not sleep training, depending on what website you find. You'll find one website which says that you're breaking your child by not sleep training, and you'll find another website that tells you you're breaking your child by sleep training. And part of the reason why I feel as passionate about it as I do is because it's so difficult to find the solution that is right for your family. And that's all it is. It's all it's about, is just, it's the right thing for you. It's what feels right for you. It's what works for your baby. It's what gets you all the sleep that you need to be able to function as a good parent to your child. That's the only thing that's important. I feel really strongly about it. I will email the presentation around. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. If you think of any questions, please feel free to email me, or you can give me a message. I would love to answer if anything else